Welcome to South Jersey Business with Joe Molyneux. As our program continues to grow, we would like to take a moment to once again thank Stockton University for making this program possible. As always on South Jersey Business, we recognize not only the success of our guests in their businesses, but also recognize the success of our guests in their local communities. They are just as committed to their community as they are to their business. With such great members within our business community, it's no wonder that things are looking up for our community as a whole. So for today's show, we are going to recognize those critical community efforts and revisit many of our past guests' appearances once again to learn about how each one of them are focused on a better tomorrow, right here on South Jersey Business. Let's see how some of our guests have been focusing their efforts on the local shore region. First, let's revisit our discussion with Dr. Donna Albano, Associate Professor of Hospitality and Tourism Management Studies, and see how she is making an impact in Somers Point. Then we will hear from Susan Adelise Schmidt, President of Suasion Communication Group, and how she is making big strides for Upper Township and Cape May County in general. Let's check it out. Donna, you're involved in so many initiatives that are connected to your work here in Stockton, specifically one that promotes regional tourism. Can you talk a little bit about that initiative?
Sure. I sit on the board of an organization called Visit South Jersey, and that's a destination marketing organization. And its primary purpose is to help market the region. This particular DMO covers 4 counties in the state of New Jersey. So that allows us to discuss tourism initiatives. And then, of course, I bring that back to the classroom and talk to students about some of the challenges that we have in marketing tourism in this state.
I think that work is great and much needed, of course. Speaking about much needed, you also work on not 1, but 2 scholarship activities. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Absolutely. It's a passion of mine, and 2 local scholarship boards that I sit on are the Howard Bacharach Scholarship Association and the Greater Atlantic City Concierge Association. Both of these organizations fundraise, so we have events during the course of the year to raise the funds, and then we have students apply and we read applications, and we have an award ceremony so we can help students fund their college.
Speaking of award ceremonies, one of the most fun events that you get involved in that I've had a privilege to attend a number of years is an industry awards program that you work closely on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Atlantic City has a citywide, what's called the Host Awards, and it's in recognition of excellent service or just employee, you've been there, so employee recognition across the spectrum of all of the employees in the hospitality industry.
Well, your work doesn't stop there. You're also not only involved, but I think one of the board members of the Somers Point Business Association. Can you talk a little bit about what that organization's all about?
Sure. So I live in the city of Somers Point in New Jersey, and as a resident and someone who teaches business, it made sense for me to get involved in my local community. And in this leadership role, we just protect and provide marketing and networking opportunities for the businesses and a healthy business environment in the city of Somers Point.
I love it. So through these activities, you not only cover a regional umbrella in marketing the tourism region, but then you get down to the municipality. And I think some of the programming that I've seen, it mirrors. It's a micro and macro approach to marketing and tourism and business. Do you find that that's the approach that works?
It definitely works. I mean, we know that our members want to network, but we also know they want to learn. So for me, from the educational perspective, it's always great to come to the board with ideas that we might want to teach our membership about business or a number of initiatives. And sometimes tourism falls into that category as well.
So you're teaching, you're doing all these community events, you're connecting the Stockton community to the business community, and I know you have an active family life and friend life as well. How do you balance all those things?
I'm not sure that I do. but I try, and a lot of it's interwoven. So, I mean, a lot of my social life are my industry colleagues, and so a lot of it, there's overlap.
I do love that answer, but you balance it very well from the outside, at least. I want to thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
That was Dr. Donna Albano, Associate Professor of Hospitality and Tourism Management Studies at Stockton University. Susan, one thing I've found is successful businesses in our region tend to give back. They volunteer their time. I understand you're involved in a newer initiative right into Cape May County in your hometown. Can you talk a little bit about your work in Upper Township?
Sure. So I've lived in Upper Township for over 20 years, and economic development is something that I'm involved in my business with various communities throughout South Jersey. So I came up with this initiative and proposed that we start this in my township, talked to my mayor, and he agreed. It was about time that we did it, and we launched the Upper Township Economic Development Commission, and it's been a wonderful experience. We have business leaders from throughout the community who are meeting on a regular basis, discussing the issues that are facing the township, and we just had a survey. So we're driving more participation from the community to get them involved, to get an understanding of what's important to them. But we're really trying to get to a point where we have some solid recommendations on what can be done in Upper Township to improve economic development and drive not only more new businesses to come into the township, but also to maintain our business base.
It's interesting because that's a micro view in your county. You're working right in your hometown, but now we talk about your home county, and you're doing some work with the Cape May County Women's Commission.
Yes, the Women's Commission is one of the organizations that I'm involved in, and many other organizations as well. I think just generally speaking, it's really important to get involved, not only as a business person, but just as a person, to contribute to your community. It's something that's very important to me. It's been pretty much my whole life. I love to give back. I really enjoy it, and I bring my kids into the mix as well. And we pick up trash if it's that type of an event to do a community cleanup, or serving meals to seniors on the holidays, whatever it is. I try to include them, but I definitely think it's important that each and every one of us gives back to our community.
Well, it sets a tone for the rest of their life. I see it with my kids. It's the same sort of thing. If you show them the way, it'll be easier for them to find their way, I think.
Absolutely, paying it forward.
Absolutely. As a successful business owner, definitely just by what we just talked about, you spend a lot of time in your community and your family spends a lot of time in the community. What advice would you give to a new business owner or a business owner that hasn't done that? What tips or advice would you give about how to get involved? Because sometimes people are a little hesitant.
Sure. Well, pick an organization that you feel an affinity toward. If it's a women's commission, or if it's a business association, something that you can definitely attend the meetings and be a part of, and that you feel a connection to. Just from a networking perspective, if you're the first one there and the last one to leave, you're going to meet the most amount of people. And, don't be afraid to just walk up to people and introduce yourself, especially at networking events, chamber events, business associations. Those people are all there to meet other people. And unfortunately, sometimes people, tend to cling to who they know, but they're really there to meet other people. So be that person that they meet, and, don't be afraid to just walk up to a stranger and introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about yourself.
That's really great business advice and life advice. I want to thank you for not only sharing the information about the work you do, but for doing that good work in the community.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much. That was Susan Edelizzi Schmidt, President of Suasian Communication Group. We'll be right back with more South Jersey business. We're going to continue our trend of guests helping the community along our local shore region. Let's move a little further north to Atlantic City, and our next guest, Joyce Hagan, Executive Director of the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. It's time to find out how Joyce is making big strides through fusing Atlantic City with the arts. Joyce, we meet so many great people that are involved in their community outside of the work that they do every day, and you're no different. You're involved with many different organizations, historically and currently. Can you talk a little bit about your role with the Atlantic City Arts Center?
Yes. In 2000, I was hired as the executive director for the Atlantic City Arts Center, which is located on Garden Pier in Atlantic City. That's when, that was really my first introduction to the city. I hadn't really done much work in the city before that. And through that process of being in that position for 5 years, I came to really learn that the residents of the city didn't even think that facility was for them. So it was great to get them involved in the arts by making them realize that they could come in. It wasn't just a tourist site, that we were really doing programming that was for the city residents as well. And they were so grateful and started bringing in their own artwork and talking to me about how important that was for them. And that's what really kind of got me hooked on trying to provide arts in Atlantic City for the residents.
You know, it's funny, it's a follow-up question to that, but Atlantic City can't be unique in that way. I bet there's places all over the region and all over the nation that some people view it as a place for someone to visit from the outside of the community and not ignite it as a potential art catalyst for their community. So it was great that you were able to take that very simple step, but it turned into a giant leap for local artists.
Yeah, it did.
So did that lead you to some of the work you did with the South Jersey Cultural Alliance?
Yes, it did. That was my next position, and when I was there, I was manager of marketing and tourism. So that really solidified my understanding of how arts marketing really worked throughout the 8 counties of South Jersey, but it also introduced me to the cultural tourism aspect of the arts. Which is another thing I'd like to be able to focus on more fully for the city of Atlantic City. Not too long ago, we had a sand sculpture competition on the beach in Atlantic City, and while the Atlantic City Alliance was here, they also produced a 3D chalk event that was in the city. They were originated to be tourism events and really draw people to the city, but also to be of value to our local residents as well. Those have been absent from the arts landscape. Those kind of events have been absent from the arts landscape in the city, and I'm working very hard with local leaders to try to bring some of those back as well. And that the love for those kinds of things and my understanding of that was really developed while I was working in that position with South Jersey Cultural Alliance.
I love that you put those two pieces together, and it was sort of an organic growth. You went back to the basics of creating art for the local population, and now you're focusing on making it a tourist opportunity for the people to come and visit. So it does, one leads directly to the other, and clearly through the 48 blocks and the Chalk About AC and the Arteriors, you're doing that in a very big way. Local artists, local initiatives, but something for everybody to enjoy. That's great. You talked about something, we always talk outside of the work we're doing here on the television. You're now in the Community Fund for AC. Can you talk a little about your role there?
Yes, 3 years ago there was a group that came to Atlantic City that hosted an event called Creative AC, and one of the initiatives that was developed during that was that it would be great to start a community fund for Atlantic City. There is a community foundation of Southern New Jersey that's located, I believe, in the Haddonfield area. And so some of their personnel started having conversations with some of us in the city. We all agreed it would be a great thing to start, and we've had our first board meeting, so we're actually there, and I'm very proud to be serving on that board and trying to make that kind of funding source for the whole city of Atlantic City become a reality.
Clearly, your experience and your willingness to participate, they chose the right person to be on that fund position. I want to thank you personally for all the work you do within the arts and the connections to the nonprofit community. Keep up the good work, because it's really making a difference.
Thanks so much. I hope so.
That was Joyce Hagan, Executive Director of the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. We'll be right back with more South Jersey Business. Here on South Jersey Business, the efforts of our guests are not always due to a focus on a local area or certain proximity. Sometimes our guests will spread their resources over a broad range of programs and functions for improving our community. Next up is Rick Dovey, President of the Atlantic County Utilities Authority. It's time to revisit Rick and see how he is focusing on utilizing the ACUA to help multiple community organizations. Rick, the Atlantic County Utilities Authority gets involved with so many organizations and nonprofits throughout our region to provide support and help them when they can. Can you give us some examples of the work you do?
Yeah, there are a number of them. I can't list them all because there really are dozens, but we're particularly connected to the United Way and involved with that. The Women's Center of Atlantic County. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Atlantic and Cape May County is very special to us, and the Community Food Bank of South Jersey is something I was the chair of the advisory board for a long period of time, and really the Red Cross, very involved in Red Cross and supporting Red Cross of South Jersey, and any number of other ones at the community level. That are appropriate to the ACUA's mission, that are tied to either the environment or the health and welfare of children, because we think education is we're involved in a lot of schools and supporting their programs at the school level throughout the county.
As long as it's appropriate to the mission of the organization, it makes sense to get involved. So it becomes an extension of the work you're doing. You're helping our communities be better through the waste collection and the recycling and making the community a better place. And those organizations you mentioned, every one of them have a similar mission, but they might be dealing with the human component or the social service component of our community. But I love that is so clear in your goals.
Well, it's important, and it's filtered to our employees. They feel it, they live it, and on their own, they're interested in contributing. So it's not just a corporate level commitment. It really filters down to all of our staff.
You know what I noticed in the people that I know that work for the organization? Not only do you encourage them, but you applaud their service in the nonprofit world, because I've worked shoulder to shoulder with many of them, and I realize that's the tone that you set at the organization.
Yeah, we encourage everybody to do that as much as they can.
How do you balance it all? You have the work part of work, the social part of work, your volunteer time, and then that all-important family and friends time. How do you find time to balance? How do you balance?
Well, the organization, my board of directors, has been very flexible in letting me, live my life. They know when I'm at work, I'm focused on that, and when I need to spend more time with family and friends, that I'm given the flexibility to do that. So I'm all in when I'm at work, but I'm all in with my family and friends and community. Also, because separate from work-related stuff, I'm involved in other things also.
That's a great way to answer that question and a great way to show the balance. You're all in on one, you're all in on the other. It sounds like a perfect balance. I want to thank you for sharing not only the good works that you do with the organization, but outside the organization in the nonprofit community as well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. That was Rick Dovey, President of the Atlantic County Utilities Authority. Welcome back. As you just saw, Rick Dovey is very dedicated to his local community, but he's not alone. Now it's time to review our discussion with Eric Rich, President and founder of Rich Asset Management. Eric is a huge supporter of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Atlantic and Cape May County, and he's willing to even go over the edge for this organization. Let's see how he does just that. Eric, one of the nonprofits you're heavily involved in is Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Atlantic and Cape May County. Can you briefly talk about what the organization does?
Sure. Big Brothers and Big Sisters is the nation's only one-on-one peer mentorship program. So it's a mentoring program between adults and at-risk youth.
How long have you been involved in the organization?
I've been involved for 10 years now.
Wow. I know you do some signature events. Can you talk about some of the things that you've done?
We do. One of our big events is called Over the Edge, where we rappel down the side of the Sheraton in Atlantic City. Almost 16 stories rappelling down as a big all-day-long fundraiser. Very fun. I've done it, and I may even do it again.
So how many times have you gone over the edge for this charity?
I've only done it once, but we only did it 2 times. So,
Oh, okay. So you
and
gave
I'm
someone else a chance.
And I'm sure I'll do it again next year.
You are not only a supporter of the organization, you also are a big to a little, I guess you'd call it?
I am. I'm both chairman of the board of directors for the organization, but I'm also a big brother. My little brother has been matched with me for over 8 years now.
The makeup of the board, I know it's diverse, but how about the makeup of the bigs? How do you try to attract the right people to fit the needs of the individuals?
All bigs and littles are hand matched. So it's not like first kid on the waiting list, first big on the waiting list get matched together. They actually comb through all the likes and personalities and everything else to custom make every match for kids. So it's very labor intensive. It's a lot of time, effort, and energy to make sure that the match is successful, because that's what we really want, is a good outcome. I always say I get more out of it than they do. I love it. My little brother is like part of my family. I joke that he's my 4th child. And it's just, it's the slightest effort and just guidance in one direction or another that makes all the difference in the world for these kids. And the statistics prove that it works.
That's great, and the work you're doing, I know, is making a difference. So if someone wants to get involved, what's the easiest way for them to get involved with the organization?
Best way to get involved is to reach out to your local chapter. For us, that would be Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Atlantic and Cape May County.
I want to thank you very much for sharing that vital information, Eric. That was Eric Rich, president and founder of Rich Asset Management. We'll be right back with another guest on South Jersey Business. Finally, we have one last special guest for today's show, and that is Dean Randazzo, co-owner of Jersey Devil Surf. Dean is not only a successful professional surfer, he is also a cancer survivor. We will round out today's show by seeing how Dean's personal battle against cancer led him to creating a significant community organization very dear to himself, the Dean Randazzo Cancer Foundation. Dean, can you talk a little bit about the foundation you formed back in 2001?
Yeah, it started in 2001. My brother and I were going through the airport. He was dropping me off. I was going out to the U.S. Open, and we're trying to brainstorm how can we make this negative situation into a positive. We're like, let's do a contest, raise money for people dealing with cancer. I had health insurance at the time, and we were like, well, what if I didn't have health insurance? I would have paid for this. So we're like, let's run a contest and then let's get a charity going, and that's where it kind of started. Let's get it. Organize a charity and raise money for people dealing with cancer that didn't have health insurance.
So as a direct result of what you were facing, you and your brother got together. You must have found other people to work with you on this, because it's not easy to start a foundation on your own. There's a lot of work that has to be done. So how did that take place?
We just said, hey, we're going to do this. We organized the contest. We had a lot of people jump in. You know, a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people I grew up with kind of jumped in and they really helped out and got the thing off the ground. And, you know, it's morphed over the years. Now we've raised almost $1 million and no one gets paid. And kind of just, it's great to give back and help people dealing with cancer.
You know, there's two different things I'd like to ask you about. One is, we talked earlier in the show about the culture of surfing, and it really does have a culture of its own. Do you think that made it easier to connect with people because you're already connected through that common cause of, you know, keeping the ocean clean and the vibe of everybody? It's a peaceful kind of journey out there. And when it's difficult, it seemed like they all banded together. Is that something you found when you were forming and growing the foundation?
Yeah, certainly. We're all, you know, we have a lot of camaraderie amongst each other, and, you know, a brotherhood, a Jersey, and we all stay strong. I don't know. You know, I think it definitely, in the friendships, we all came out to support a good cause. And I mean, people doing it today, the board members and everything, they come out just for the cause, to help people dealing with cancer. So they don't have to worry about their medical bills or how they're paying their mortgage, and it takes so much pressure off. And, you know, we've had other people on the board that have had cancer, and they know what the struggles are.
We're hard-pressed to find someone who isn't touched by cancer in some way, their family or as an individual. I had an opportunity to read some of the testimonials of the work you had done, and these are people in your community whose parents were suffering or a cousin was suffering, and you were able to help them. The foundation was able to help them. I have to believe that's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, without all the board members and the community coming together, I mean, this would never take place. It's so much, you know, bigger than I ever thought it would become. It's just wonderful. People jump out of the woodwork to come out and help and donate and support the cause.
I know it's a lot of work, but I also see a lot of smiles at those events. It seems like everybody's having a really good time helping people through a difficult time. Do you find that?
Yeah, well, I mean, these board members, they put so much time and effort into these events, and, you know, it's just amazing what they do. And like I said, it wouldn't be possible without them, and it wouldn't be possible without the community coming out together to support the events and have fun. We basically try to make the events around fun and raise money for a good cause at the same time.
Well, I want to thank you for two things, Dean. One, for being a good friend, and number two, for starting such a worthwhile foundation and keeping it running all these years. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That was Dean Randazzo, professional surfer and founder of the Dean Randazzo Cancer Foundation. Well, that's the show. As you can see, all of our guests on this program are very committed to the local community. Their giving back is certainly an inspiration we can all appreciate. Thank you to all of our guests for taking the time to share their stories on this program. Once again, thank you to Stockton University and everyone that makes this program possible. Let's do it again next week. And until then, let's get growing, South Jersey. Thanks for watching. Want more South Jersey business with Joe Molyneux? Follow us for bonus content, and let's stay connected. Let's Get Growing, South Jersey is more than just a phrase on the show. It is what we need to make our region vibrant and keep our communities strong.